Hello and welcome to the Clash Daytona Race Recon webinar presented by RaceX. Go ahead and pour your favorite recovery beverage and grab a pen and paper if you are a note taker. My name is John Mayfield. I am TriDot's Director of Community. I'm a full-time triathlon coach, both USAT Level 2 and Ironman U certified, who's coached hundreds of athletes from first-timers to professionals and everyone in between. Coincidentally, my 70.3 PR is at Daytona. I will be racing again in 2021 and hoping to set a new PR out there with you guys. So for those of you not familiar with RaceX, RaceX is the official race execution app of USA Triathlon. It produces optimized pacing plans proven to produce your overall best race results. Optimization is individually based on your FTP, your body composition, your bike profile, weather, and more. The bike course is segmented with specific wattages prescribed to produce your overall fastest race results, not just your best bike split. And then run pacing is prescribed as power or grade adjusted pace. It's super easy to use. You simply export to Garmin for real-time prompts. And we are going to be offering this free through race day. So more information on that to come. All right, we are headed into the final mesocycle. So it's important to get in race rehearsals. In these race rehearsals, you want to duplicate race conditions as best you can. You want to practice everything. This is primarily going to be your pacing, which that's going to come from RaceX. And then also it's critical to know your nutrition, your hydration protocols, have those tested and dialed in for race day. You also want to test your gear and make sure everything is in good working condition prior to race day. These race rehearsals are going to start this weekend, so 4 weeks out and 2 weeks out from race day. You have several options to export that RaceX optimized pacing. Now, most likely you're not fortunate enough to be able to get in some laps on the track, but for those of you that are in the Daytona area and can practice on the section of the course outside of the track, you can actually export your race day file. The rest of us doing it either remote or virtual, you can export files and follow your pacing that way. So the intent is to tweak anything that didn't go perfectly in the first race rehearsal prior to the second race rehearsal, and then head into race day knowing that you've got a well thought out, well vetted plan. This is also a good time to charge and replace your batteries. So obviously those batteries that you charge on a regular basis, like your watch, your bike computer, you're going to want to have those fully charged prior to your race rehearsals as well as prior to race day. But also keep in mind things like your electronic shifting, heart rate monitor batteries, power meter batteries, that sort of thing. This is a good time to go ahead and replace those just so you know that they're going to be fully charged and operational come race day. I mentioned it's important to know your sweat rate. We recommend working with Precision Hydration. They offer a great online sweat test that can help you dial in your hydration needs as well as your electrolytes. They also offer a quick carb calculator that can help you dial in your nutrition protocol. They offer a free video consultation that I highly recommend. I have taken advantage of this and it helped me dial in both my nutrition and hydration plan that has now been tested and look forward to using on a race day. You can save 10% on anything from Precision Hydration by using the code TRIDOT10. All right, on to the taper. The purpose of the taper is to rest and to recover as to maximize your performance on race day. So the taper speaks to a gradual reduction in training volume. A very common mistake that athletes make through their taper is neglecting intensity. So as that training volume begins to come down, it's important to at least sustain or even increase the amount of intensity that you are doing. So make sure that you are tapering properly, staying primed, staying in a state of recovery, ready to race. It's also a great idea to bank as much sleep as possible as race day approaches. Sneak in a nap if and when you can, knowing that you'll probably not sleep well the night before the race. That's okay. Lots of great races have come after really bad nights of sleep. So the more sleep you're able to get in those last couple days before the race, the better off you're going to be. All right, almost time to race. A couple things to take care of first. Most of us will be traveling into Daytona, so I recommend beginning planning and packing early. So there's a lot of things to bring on a trip like this. Chances are you're going to be spending several nights away from home, so you've got all those sorts of things to bring. But then you got to also include your swim, bike, run, nutrition, recovery, all those things. So my recommendation is to begin planning early and utilize the list. Make a list of everything that you'll need. So your clothes, your gear, your food. Make sure that you don't forget anything. and plan ahead as far as that goes. Then, when it comes time to travel, make sure you're staying hydrated. There's something about travel that is just naturally dehydrating. The last thing you want to do is show up to race day in a dehydrated state already behind the ball there. Wear compression. So whether you're driving in or flying in, chances are you're going to be seated for longer periods of time. There's a tendency for fluid to build up in the feet, ankles, lower legs when seated. So wearing compression sleeves, compression socks can help offset some of those effects. Also, it's important to stay loose. So don't stay seated for longer periods of time than you have to. So if you are driving in, a couple things that you can do just to knock out all three of these. Bring a cooler full of water bottles with you. It's a good idea in those last several days prior to race day to always have a water bottle, preferably with electrolytes in it with you. So have that water bottle with you. And then as you're driving, don't stay seated for longer than about 45 minutes to an hour is kind of my rule of thumb. I know I'm one that likes to make good time on road trips, so this is a little bit of a pill for me to swallow, but about once an hour, if I'm driving, I'll pull over to the side of the road, just walk a couple laps around the car, maybe get in a couple jumping jacks, something like that, just to get up, get moving, and really not have too much effect from that time in the car. If I'm flying in, maybe it's getting up and down, again, about once an hour, walking up and down the aisle a couple times. If I'm staying hydrated, I probably need to go to the bathroom so I can knock out both of those at the same time. Maybe forego the jumping jacks on the airplane. You'll probably get some strange looks, maybe get tackled by your fellow flight members there, but do what you can to stay loose and just don't stay seated for longer than you have to. And then get in a shakeout run upon arrival. So a shakeout run is just a real easy, low intensity run with the intent of getting the heart rate up a little bit. It's going to flush out any of that fluid buildup that may have occurred while traveling and just remind your body what you're doing there and get you set for those last couple of workouts and primed to go on race day. So I probably don't have to tell you to keep an eye on the weather. For good reason, triathletes are known for obsessing over the weather. And typically early December in Daytona provides some great race weather. So based on historical trends, what we can expect is a high somewhere in the low 70s with overnight temperatures somewhere in the mid to low 50s. So chances are you're going to be starting the race somewhere in some relatively cool weather, and then it is going to warm up to a relatively nice, relatively comfortable temperature, certainly better than a lot of the temperatures we were racing back in the summertime. But it's important to keep an eye on this. This time of year, you never know exactly what's going to happen. Fronts can come through. Temperatures can be significantly warmer, significantly cooler. And then, of course, things like rain can be in the forecast as well. All that needs to be factored in when planning your gear, your nutrition, your hydration, your pacing. All those things come into factor. So keep an eye on the weather, stay flexible, and adjust accordingly. So racing in the weather, racing in the heat. So we wouldn't typically consider those low to mid 70s racing in the heat, but I will say, based on my experience racing at Daytona, I have raced in those temperatures in the mid 70s. There is practically no shade anywhere on the course, especially out there on the run course. So on a sunny day, you are fully exposed to that coastal sun, and it does feel considerably warmer, and it's going to have that effect on your body. So it is important to keep a couple things in mind, like staying ahead of hydration. We've already talked about this a little bit, but both in the days leading into the race and during the race, it's important to stay ahead of those hydration needs. Once you fall behind on hydration, it's very, very difficult to get caught up. Maintaining a good state of hydration is also going to help control your core temperature and keep that down. Also, great strategy for keeping cool and keeping your core temperature down is utilizing ice and cold water. So take cold water at the aid stations, spray your body, and then out there on the run course specifically, if they have ice available, shove that everywhere, and then utilize those cold sponges, cold towels, just to keep the skin, your kit wet, and that can help keep you cool. And then cover as much skin as possible. As I mentioned, the run course specifically has absolutely no shade on it. So depending on what the weather is like, the cloud cover, it could be a very sunny day. So maybe it's a cap or visor, sleeved kit, cooling sleeves, that sort of thing, just to help keep the sun off your direct skin will help keep you cool in that regard. All right, upon arrival in Daytona, you will need to check in My recommendation is to check in early. The lines got pretty long last year. From what I recall, it took me about an hour and a half in line to get checked in. Even though they do a really great job and they move you through efficiently, there's just a lot of folks coming through. So my recommendation would be to check in sooner rather than later. Check-in is available on Friday from 9 to 5 and Saturday for 8 to 5 for the half distance race. One thing that I did not partake in, but I heard some really great reviews of, were the hot laps. This is where you have a professional driver take you around the track. They do some pretty incredible speeds. They also go up on those really high banked corners. They actually come to a stop and let you feel what those banks feel like that you'll be out riding on in the next couple of days. So that's a great thing to check out. And then, of course, check out the swim, bike, and run course. So you will have access to the track infield. That is where check-in is. That's where the expo is. So you'll be able to go right down there to the transition area, right down there to the swim venue, and see all of that. So unfortunately, not really an opportunity to do any laps on your bike out there on the course prior to race day, but it's good to go and get a feel for it. And then I also recommend going out and driving the portion of the course that is outside of the track, just so that you can get a feel for what you're in store for on race day. And then check out the run course. It is all within the property of the track. So the run course goes from the track out to a parking area. But again, just to get a good idea of what you're going to experience on race day. So, day before the race, Daytona Eve. There is a mandatory bike check-in between 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock. Kind of like check-in, my recommendation is to take care of this as early as possible, just so that you can move on to other things, take care of before the day. So my recommendation would be there closer to the 1 o'clock time rather than the 5 o'clock time, just in case anything goes wrong, anything was forgotten. You show up and you've got a flat tire or anything like that, it's going to be much easier to deal with that at 1 o'clock as opposed to 5 o'clock. Day before the race, the professionals are going to be racing. So the women start at 12 o'clock. The men start at 1:55. That is super cool, really neat. But one thing to consider is, again, chances are temperatures are going to be in the mid 70s. There's a pretty good chance you'll be in full sun. So if you decide to check out the professional races, do what you can to mitigate time on your feet, time in the sun. Maybe bring along a umbrella or something like that to provide yourself some shade. Do what you can to stay seated, and again, make sure that you've got your hydration taken care of. Don't stand in the sun for hours on end without a drink of water watching those phenomenal athletes race. But it is certainly very cool, certainly very inspirational and motivational the day before a race to see what those guys are doing. And then from there, take care of as much as possible. Maybe instead of watching the pro race, maybe take in a movie. That's always something I suggest the day before a big race. Chances are you've thought of little else in the days and weeks prior. So taking in a movie is just a good distraction. It'll provide you some time off your feet, as well as a mental distraction from everything that's been going on. For me, I have a hard time going and sitting in a dark, cool theater without nodding off. So for me, oftentimes it's a last minute nap the day before the race. From there, get in a early dinner and a reasonable bedtime. All right, headed on to race day. Last year, as athletes entered into the infield of the track, we had to go through a COVID protocol. I have not seen whether that will be the case again this year or not. So that may be something that you need to account for on race morning. So last year, they were doing temperature checks, questionnaires, all of that with everyone that was in the vehicle. So it did take a little bit longer getting into the track. So again, make sure that that is taken care of and accounted for. So if they are doing that COVID protocol, you're going to want to schedule yourself a little bit of extra time because it'll take you a little bit longer to get into the track. If not, it should be pretty quick and easy to get into the track. And there's plenty of parking there in the infield. So this is really nice. You will have dropped your bike the day before, so you won't have to mess with that. And again, large parking lots there in the infield that are relatively close to the transition area, making it nice and easy both before and after the race. So it is actually one of the more convenient parking locations for races. Transition is open from 5 in the morning until 6:45. One of the things we provided feedback on last year were the limited bathrooms. So we are hoping that perhaps they've listened to the athlete feedback. Hopefully they will provide some extra bathrooms, but this may be something that you account for on race morning as well. There were long lines for all of the restrooms before the 2020 race. So again, maybe just schedule a little bit extra time to deal with that. Something that's really neat, really unique to racing in Daytona are the fireworks prior to the start. So that's something that's really cool. So make sure that you are in place down there near the swim start to take that in. That's super neat. And then the race will start at 7 o'clock. So the water temperature will be announced on site. Typically, it's going to be wetsuit legal with water temperatures expected to be somewhere in the low to mid 60s. Now, this is largely a retention pond inside of a NASCAR track. So unfortunately, this is not going to be that quintessential beautiful Florida water. The water is pretty murky. It is not clear at all. That said, I've swam in it twice and I've never had any issues. Visibility is not real great, but other than that, never had any issues with this water. It's just not real pretty. The swim course starts off in a southwest direction, so largely swimming away from the sunrise, and then we'll turn back to the northeast. So the return trip will largely be into the sunrise, so especially those that breathe to the right, you may be getting a face full of morning sunrise. So make sure that your goggle selection takes that into consideration. It is a relatively small body of water. It is relatively narrow. The good news is, since it is a protected body of water, it should be almost completely flat, depending on the wind, depending on largely the amount of athletes you have around you. Really, that's going to be the biggest factor in how rough the water is, just how many people are there swimming around you. Obviously, no currents or anything like that. But just kind of depending on what wind may be present and the athletes around you. Because of that being narrow as well, it's pretty easy to sight. So largely you can sight off both the buoys and the shoreline. So that shoreline is never very far away. So some good opportunities there to make sure you swim straight and fast. And there are lots of athletes being entered into the water at the same time. So if you have appropriately cued yourself according to your expected time, there should be lots of opportunities to draft on the swim. So Lake Lloyd is located there in the infield of the Daytona track. So you will start, head down, turn around. Super simple, can't get lost, not a whole lot to it. Basically, just an out and back swim course. Now, from there, you will transition into the nicest transition I have ever been part of. The entire transition is carpeted. So not only just the path that you'll walk along, but the entire area under the racks is carpeted the entire time. So it's a big transition area, but again, quite nice in that regard. There's a new bike course for 2021. The good news is it removes some rough roads that were there around the airport just south of the track. Unfortunately, it appears as if we will only be riding either one full lap or perhaps even one half lap on the track. So for that portion of the route that is on the track, one thing to be careful of is minding the grade of the track. So along the long straightaways, you actually can get up there on that banked portion of the track. It is such a grade that you can ride on. It was actually pretty fun. I got up high enough to where I was actually concerned with my right pedal actually hitting the ground because that grade was so high. Now, as you approach the curves, the grade becomes so high that you have to drop back down to those flatter areas. But again, whether it's a half lap or a full lap, I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to get some clarification on that. Just be careful of that. So the new course, as I mentioned, removes a section and actually is 2 loops on the Highway 92 route. So we'll take a look at that here in just a second. So this map was just updated in the last couple of days. All that I am able to see is a map and not an actual explanation of it. So we'll have to get some clarification on that as race day approaches. There is an icon on the map. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm assuming that it could be an aid station. It is out there on that stretch of Highway 92 that will be hit twice on those laps. Historically, there were 3 aid stations out there, so perhaps maybe there may be as few as 1 aid station that is hit twice. So regardless of whatever it is, we'll have those RaceX maps updated, so you'll know exactly what wattage to hold for every section of the course. So as I mentioned, new map. We'll start up here on the track. The way I read this is we will start in transition, come around, and then exit the track. Historically, we would do 2 loops and then do this half before exiting, and then head off here around the airport. This is where the bad roads were down here. So the good news is that section is gone. So again, come around the track, exit out. This was part of the track, part of the course historically up here, and then we would hit Highway 92. So that is largely the same. We'll head out, come down to the same U-turn point, come back, and then U-turn approximately 2/3 of the way. I did map this out and did confirm that U-turning here and then heading back to the track is right at 56 miles. So I feel pretty good about that. Again, I'm not exactly sure what this icon is. To me, it looks like a gas pump. So maybe that is significant of an aid station. So again, we would hit that on the first time out, U-turn and hit it again. So conceivably you could hit that same aid station twice. Kind of hard to read here, but this does speak to a U-turn, and then on the second lap, returning back to the start. So again, from there you would head back, and this is where I'm not exactly sure. Last year, the historical course, you went actually kind of around the track, around the outside of the grounds, not actually on the track. Unfortunately, that's what I would probably guess this to be. Is again, this is out on the perimeter of the track. We enter back in and then into transition. This could be a second loop or completing the loop, but unfortunately, I don't think so. So I think all we're in for is just 1/2 loop out there on the track. To head out onto the run. The run is a 2-loop course. It is totally and completely flat. It starts on the main track and then transitions over to the infield track. So it's not exclusively on the round oval track that the bike course was. It starts there and then moves to the internal track and then exits out the backside to the parking areas. From there, we'll do several miles out and around the track and then head back in to the track. Just like on the bike, it's important to mind the grade. I would say that running on the track in the graded section was a bigger deal on the run than on the bike. Not that much of a problem on the bike, and what I perceived as relatively flat while on the bike. When I was out there running, I actually realized there was more grade to it. So if you've ridden on uneven road or run on uneven road, uneven sidewalk, you'll know that it can be challenging, it can be difficult. So if you have like IT bands, knee issues, anything like that, just be aware that what is relatively flat on the bike is actually going to be somewhat graded on the run. So there is a relatively significant amount of time spent on the oval track. Effectively, we'll be doing 2 full loops over the course of the race. So just keep that in mind. Perhaps find a kind of a sweet spot that works for you. There are 3 aid stations per lap, so 6 aid stations over the entire race. That means 6 aid stations over 13 miles. I felt this last year. It was relatively warm. Again, when temperatures are up in the mid 70s, you're in that full Florida coastal sun, and you only have an aid station every other mile. That is for my preference a little bit on the long side. Kind of keep in mind that most of your races have an aid station approximately every mile, whereas this means that you're going to be going approximately every 2 miles before having access to an aid station. There is no shade out there on the run course, lots of sun, assuming it's going to be a sunny day. And make sure to follow your RaceX power or grade adjusted pace. So the run course starts at the transition area, heads across to the track, and as I mentioned, begins on the big main track and then cuts over to the infield track. So here it is a little bit flatter surface. You'll hit your first aid station about 2 miles in, head back out to the main track. So again, this is where we're going to run into more of those graded issues. Exit out the backside, do this section along throughout the parking area, hit the second aid station, then run around the backside of the track. Again, this is all parking area, so this is just asphalt that's largely going to be reflecting any sun, any heat back up. You'll enter back into the track, hit that aid station, come around. On your first loop, you will start the second loop, and your second time around, you'll head into the very cool, very unique finish line. So speaking of, enjoy the finish. Make sure you take it in. It is a very unique opportunity, very unique experience. So make sure that that is enjoyed to its fullest. Find your support crew and loved ones. There is a section where your support crew is allowed to be down there kind of in that finisher area. So make a plan, maybe meet up with them, share a high five, a hug, or something like that as you enter into that finisher chute, and then begin to refuel your body and begin active recovery soon thereafter. So your body is largely going to be in a quite a depleted state after having been very good to you all day. Now it's time for you to be good to your body. So begin to refuel, begin that active recovery just so that you can bounce back quicker. You'll feel better the next day and the following days the sooner you begin to do that active recovery. And also be sure to check out our future Race Recon webinars. We do these for every US Ironman race, numerous 70.3s, and then races like Escape from Alcatraz, USA Triathlon, Age Group Nationals, and more. So check out the full offering at myracex.com/race-recon. That is what I've got. Thanks for attending. I look forward to racing with you guys soon. Have a great race.